All right, guys, welcome back to another episode of the Natty News Daily Podcast. It is James and Dan, joined by Michael Wittig today. If you're not familiar with Michael, I think the word prolific is probably the best definition of himself as an athlete. We just talked off air, 29 pro wins, physique athlete, has a couple big titles to his name. So yeah, we just want to dive right on in, talk a little bit to you, Michael. So yeah, thank you for coming on.
Glad to be here, man. Thank you guys for working with my schedule. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, you're not the hardest of the ones. We've had some that have been very interesting to try and track down, tie down, and get all of us in the same time zone or availability, I guess. So not a problem whatsoever. But yeah, so like I hinted at, right? A truly prolific athlete. We know you've so we first met you at Mr. America. That's where we physically met. So we know you've competed there. Have a couple titles within the INBA, PNBA. So why don't I just turn it over to you, give just a brief background on, where you got started with the sport and kind of where your path has led you to this. And then I think it'll be interesting for the listeners to hear about some of your other hobbies, activities, passions as well.
Okay. Right on. Well, I'm Michael Wittig. I'm 47 years old. I started competing in 2016 at 39. So it was kind of later in life before I decided and it was something I just wanted to do for fun and kind of had always thought about it and just jumped in at 39. I'm from Oklahoma. I'm still here with my family in Tulsa. And back then, the NANBF, the IPE is pretty predominant here in this area. My first show was actually an NPC show because I didn't know there was natural bodybuilding. I didn't know there was actually organizations, only knew of the NPC. So I jumped in as a natural athlete at 39, felt respectable on stage, but pretty much got my butt kicked. These guys were huge. I was going against these massive guys, especially the guys my age. They're really big. So I was kind of discouraged. Not that I didn't win, but I didn't have fun. It was a long day. I don't know if any of you guys been to the NPC shows. It started early a.m. Then there's a 5 p.m. night show, and you're done at 10 p.m. And I was just exhausted and like, I don't know about this. And then I heard about a natural organization here in Oklahoma. Decided to give it a try and just had a blast. Had a blast with the atmosphere, the friendliness of all the athletes. That's where I first met Eric Murphy. So he's from Oklahoma. We came up together at a NANBF show in Oklahoma City because that's where he's based out of. I'm out of Tulsa. I lost to him twice before getting my pro card, but we've been tight ever since then. And earned my pro card in 2017. My first one, I actually competed in classic physique and men's physique. I never really talked about the classic physique too much back then because I never competed as a pro back then. I've only done men's physique, but that day it was one of their shows in Arkansas, not too far from the house, and I got open men's physique and I got open classic that day, and then competed in my first pro show just a week later in St. Louis. We were just talking about St. Louis. That's where I found the best donut spot in the world. Was at that first pro show there, a Steve Hunter production there in St. Louis, and won my first pro title, and just been having fun ever since.
Yeah, and that was 2017, so all relatively rapid, right? You say you started bodybuilding at 16, won your pro card in 17, won your first pro show in 17.
Yeah, competed 2017. I think I took 2018 off. Well, I get confused in when I competed. I can't quite remember. But yeah, I've taken a couple years off here and there. I normally try to compete every other year, but there's a couple years where I was ambitious and did 2 back-to-back years.
Well, you would almost have to rack up.
Short period of time.
Yeah, well, just knowing your numbers, right? Like you'd almost have to compete every year to get that 29 pro wins. But we talked actually before. What was the total number of classes and everything just last year alone?
So let's back up real quick. So last year was 2023. 2022, I competed. I did take 2021 off to build and just have an off season to recover. I competed in 2022. And I felt really good about how I did and how I looked, about my conditioning, my size, but it wasn't quite 100%. And I knew it because I was doing a lot of acting work that year. I've been starting to doing some commercial and movie acting the last few years. And that year, 2022, is really busy for me. I was on sets almost every week the whole year. You know, there's some peak weeks where I was like on a movie set half the time during peak week. So it was just really tough. But it wasn't an excuse to me because I still felt really good about how I did. But at the end of the year, I was like, man, I hate to take off a few years now because I know I was maybe that off what I could be.
Mm-hmm.
So instead of taking last year off, I decided to compete again and just kind of dial it in. And one thing I did differently is I worked with my good friend Eric Murphy then, who in 2023 had no, I'm getting my years in 2022 had a big epic run. I think it was 2022. He competed a bunch of times,
Mm-hmm.
more than I did. I think he did 19 shows or 18 shows. It was ridiculous. And he won a lot of them, won some world championships. And again, we've been tight for many years. So when I decided to do a lot of shows in 2023, you know, I just called him up and said, here's what I want to do. And there's no one else out there that could guide me better than you because you just did it.
Yeah.
So for the first year, he coached me, and I don't bounce around coaches. I've only had one other coach, John Gorman, since I've started. And then I did a lot of self-coaching in 2022 and then brought on Eric for last year. And we worked really well together. And I got what I wanted. You know, it wasn't about winning titles, really. I competed last year because I knew I was off a little bit of what I could have done.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and I wanted to be my best and then see what happens before I took an extended time off.
Yeah, that makes sense. You felt like, there was almost an asterisk on that last season where it was successful, but not to the point that you knew you could be. So,
Because
yeah,
I knew
no.
an extended time off was coming up, and I
Mhm.
didn't want to. I didn't feel right. There would have been a unfinished business for myself if I would have took that extended time off after 2022. So I knew I was going to do some shows in 23, but really January, I had no idea it was going to be a lot of shows.
Mhm.
That kind of hit me because really I thought Eric was kind of crazy, honestly. When he did his run, I thought he was out of his mind. And there's a few other guys that did a lot of shows like that. My friend Jonathan Goins did quite a bit of shows, and a few other cats, and I thought they're just out of their mind. I was like, these guys are crazy.
Mhm.
And then for some reason, early in 2023, God kind of placed it on my heart to really push myself and see what I could do. And I didn't know what that number was going to be. I wasn't like, okay, I'm going to do 17 shows. That wasn't it at all. I had maybe 9 or 10 planned that I thought would be cool to do, but I wasn't sure if I was going to do it. And then as the year went on and as I started feeling better and better, and for somehow getting better as the year went on, the shows just added. We just kept adding them. And it ended up with 17 shows and 5 organizations. I think I did IPE, PNBA, NGA, ANBF, and USBF that year. And then at 10 of the shows, I did multiple classes, 3 to 5 classes in one day, because I compete as open. I am 47. I completed as masters 40 plus. I went for my sports model pro card, which is in PNBA, and a few other organizations have that too. And it's really big in Europe. It's been around for a long time, like with what's that organization over there that's really I can't remember. I get them all mixed
The
up.
WBFF or
Yeah, that's it. That's really big over in Australia, Europe,
yeah.
here in the US too. And a few natural organizations have it as well. It's just more up and coming in the US. But I thought it fit my physique real well. So I went for my pro card in that, got the pro card, competed as a pro in that. And then at the end of the year, I had no intentions all year of doing this, but at the end of the year, I kind of had the itch to try to get my classic card again. I did get a pro card in 2017 in classic physique and open. And I was like, what would be crazy is to try to get my classic card again. So in October, I competed in classic open in Arizona and won. It was a good class. There's probably 6 guys. I was for sure the oldest. I was the only one over 40 for sure. I think the next guy was probably upper 30s and then a bunch of 20-year-olds. Got my pro card in classic and competed as a pro master classic in September.
What organization was that?
That was PNBA.
NBA as well.
That was PNBA. I got my classic card. And I added up how many classes I competed in last year. It was 40 classes last year total.
More stage time than anyone else.
It's crazy. There's one of them I did 5 classes. I did sports model, men's physique, classic physique, and we're talking open, masters, all these different. I had a change. Just I was changing. It was like a theater show. I'll change get off stage, run, change, run back on stage, get off, swipe the sweat, change. It was madness. It was madness.
That's
But I
just
did it and I felt good about it.
it's a daunting number to even comprehend, because when we, like, Dan and I talk about like an extended competitive season, we're talking like 4 or 5 shows, right? And you did
Yeah.
4 times that number. So
Normally I would do 4 or so and thought that
Mhm,
was a lot. So yeah,
mhm,
up until this, yeah, I've only done like 4 shows in a year. And I remember doing those 4 shows and at the end just tapping out, being done. Like
mhm,
I can't do no more. I'm physically done. And this year, that last year, it was just different.
mhm,
Like I probably won't ever do that again. I'll do multiple classes and I'll probably do a decent number of shows, but I don't really have any reason to try to do like 10 shows or plus again. There's really no reason.
mhm,
Um, I mean, besides the doing what I needed to do to be physically ready, which was a lot of, I did it full time. Last year was full time. That's all I did was compete or train or recover to compete. That was my job last year. So half the time it was doing that. The other half of the time was getting
mhm,
sponsorships to pull off the financial burden of 17 shows and 40 classes, which was an
mhm.
enormous amount of money. When I added it up, it was $25,000, I think, is what the total expense was to pull that off.
Mhm. I think that opens up a couple different topics, right? So sponsorships in natural bodybuilding is one that's tough. Now you are someone who has a decent number of them and seem to be doing relatively well with them. So why don't we talk just briefly, if you want,
Yeah,
about what that process looks like for you, maybe give some insight to other athletes and how that's been successful for you and how they may implement some of those strategies themselves.
absolutely. I'd love to share that because it's a gift of mine and something I learned in my earlier career that I brought to bodybuilding from day one. I am in a rock band called Pillar. Been doing that since probably when you guys were little bitty, since 1999. And we're actually doing some reunion shows this year. So I learned the sponsorship game and just how that works by being in a international band that did well. Um, so the thing that I try to stress to my friends and my peers is you don't have to compete to get sponsors. You don't have to be a champion to get sponsors. They don't care about that. They care about you having the ability to connect with people,
Mhm,
not being an influencer, not, hey, look at me, how cool my abs are. It had nothing to do with that. It's, can you connect with people? Do people care about you and what you have to say? If
mhm,
you can answer yes to that, or to build your platform to answer yes to that, you can get sponsors. So I started getting fitness sponsors before I ever competed. I'd been working out off and on since I was a kid. I just, something I've always loved to do. It's always been music and fitness for me, but I didn't decide to compete till 2016. Well, I didn't get back in shape again until about a year or so before that. I had some, was doing other things in life and decided to get back in shape. After about a year, I wanted to take fitness as a career. So I started getting sponsors then about a year after kind of getting my physique back. Um, and I didn't have a big social media platform. I had one. You can't try to get sponsors and have 100 followers. You have to have somewhat of a following. But I didn't have a big one though. It was very, very moderate.
mhm,
Very what's the word? It's very, very conservative.
mhm,
But I understood how to do it and how to reach out to people. So you don't have to. It's like if you want to compete, get in your best shape and go do it. You don't have to wait 10 years, and expect to win the Olympia your first year competing. It's a process, of
mhm,
seeing how you do and then improving. And it's the same thing with social media and getting sponsors. Just go do it and then improve through the years. People see what I do now and how much I post and all this stuff. First of all, I'm not the best at it. There's guys that are better at social media than me, but what I do now is not how I started. So starting to do social media and get sponsors is like building your physique. What splits the best? It's the split that you can be consistent with, right? That's the answer, is the split. It's the same with social media. How much should I post? What should I do? Whatever amount that you can be consistent with is where you start. So one of the keys to sponsorships, it's a big topic. I
mhm,
actually have a book on it. I'm going to be developing a master class about it. But one of the more important notes is you only go after companies that you truly believe in.
mhm,
Don't chase money, don't chase free stuff. That's out there, but it's not genuine, and people see that. You know, so if you really want to make a career out of it and support your family with sponsors, and that be your job, go after companies that you truly believe in, that you're buying already.
Mm-hmm.
Well, my core sponsors I've been with for over 8 years. And it's because I was buying it and I believed in the company and I reached out to them. You know, so you want a track record of using these products before you even think about reaching out to companies. You know what I'm saying? So you can, when you reach out to them in a professional manner, you can say, hey, look, and show them posts over a series of months or years if you've already been using their stuff.
Mm-hmm.
That's going to help you a lot more than just, hey, I'm going to try to get this sponsorship and you've never done anything for them.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so I had a supplement sponsorship and an apparel sponsorship before I even thought about competing. And then it's something that just like building a physique, it just taken daily work for many, many years. A lot of consistency, a lot of hard work. You know, the same principles you apply to building your physique, you apply to trying to build your career, to your platform. You know, and another key to that is like when you're trying to build your platform is you got to define who you are and what makes you different than everybody else, because everybody's trying to do social media, everybody's trying to do fitness. So it's like you at least have to define, and I encourage people to try to summarize them in like one sentence. Who are you and what makes you different? For me, I've always been an older guy because I didn't restart this until I was 39. So I'm a 47-year-old fit father of four. That's my key statement, and that's kind of everything I do starts there.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not trying to pass myself off as this young, the biggest guy, the strongest guy, because that's not me. I'm an old dude with kids that is able to make fitness a lifestyle. And that's how I try to, that's my platform. And that's how I connect with people. And because I was able to connect with people, I'm able to connect with sponsors. And then it's that daily grind, daily hard work, consistent work. It's like The Rock. When you get a sponsor, you want to be the easiest guy they've ever worked with, the friendliest guy they've ever worked with. They ask you to do A, you do 2 times A.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? They ask you to do this, do it double. Give them twice as much as they ask for and do a better job than everybody else. If you do that, you're going to be successful pretty much in anything in life,
Mm-hmm.
especially with sponsors. So I have my normal sponsors. That is full time for me now. That pays my bills. Now I'm not rich. I'm not sitting here in a mansion. I have to work hard. So I don't want people to think that this guy's rolling in money. I'm not. I'm able to contribute to my family, and my wife works, and we're blessed. We have 4 kids. We have just a nice house, but it's not a huge house. We have to work hard. We have to pay our bills. But I'm blessed for my part of the finances to come from sponsored work full time. So I'm able to have my own schedule. I'm able to do things I enjoy. And then to compete last year, though, my wife doesn't let me dip into my paychecks, my sponsor paychecks that support our family to compete. I'm not able to do that or we'd be broke. So last year it cost about $25,000 to compete, which means half of last year I was working on the phone, on the email, and raising another $25,000 through sponsorships. Some of them was my core, but a lot of it new sponsorships to help me finance what I did last year. So what I did last year was me working hard, but hey, I was supported by Eric Murphy. I had some of the best posing coaches, Showtime Keith, Richie Lopez on the classic side, my friend Angelo on the sports model side, because each class is a little bit different. So I went to the best of who I think is one of the best for each of those classes, as a team effort. And then all my sponsors was another team effort because I couldn't have did what I did last year financially without that support. So it was a massive team group effort to pull off what I did last year.
Yeah, and I like that you went into it with the approach of like, I'm going to work for this, right? You're promoting the company and it's authentic. And people pick up on that. And that's why you're successful with it. You're not just, hey, I have this code, use it so I can make some money. Like you said, it's stuff you're already using and you believe in. People know that. People can see it when you talk about a product, that a product, that how you're gonna, how it's gonna fit you, or you're gonna react, or how your training is gonna be when you're taking this. So that's something I think is lost on a lot of the younger generation, even our generation. They just kind of want to get some code, get some free supplements or whatever it is, and try and make some money, and it doesn't turn out to do anything for them.
No, it's not easy, or everyone would be successful at it. And I'm very open with how I do it competitors ask me all the time. I wrote a book back in 2019 about it because so many of my friends were asking me. And as I got tired of answering the same questions every time, so I wrote this book about it. But anytime anyone of my friends that are, competition friends ask me, I'm happy to help them. It's not a secret. Them being successful doesn't hurt me at all. I want to see all the natural competitors win because it helps the sport. If we can get more guys landing big sponsorships and being successful, it helps our sport. We have a lack of that right now, actually. I think a lot of competitors and my friends are limited to what they can do because it's so expensive. It's expensive to compete. The economy's not great the last couple of years. Our groceries are more expensive. So if you guys, me, and other people can help our competitors win, it's going to be a win for all of us.
Yeah,
So I'm all
absolutely.
about it. It does take a lot of work. I mean, landing the sponsorship's one thing, but then you got to keep it. You know what I'm saying? If you're not connecting with people, if you're not, at the end of the day, sponsorships, I would consider myself a part of the marketing department for these companies. Instead of doing magazine ads like they did in the day, or radio ads or TV ads, we're doing social media ads for them. Basically, we're part of the marketing department. So we don't, yes, for me, it's about relationships. I like working with good people. I want to know them. I want to build a long-term relationship with them. But at the end of the day, they're running a business. So if you're not helping them sell product, you're probably not going to be there very long. They're not going to keep paying you money or giving you free stuff if you're not helping them at all. So keeping the sponsorship is a whole nother, that's the beginning. You get the sponsorship, then you actually have to start working. You have to keep it. And again, it just comes down to being easy to work with, giving more than they ask, being prompt, being easy, just all that, giving them your best, basically. And then if something's not working, it's like if you're working out and your program's not working, what do? You either quit or you try a new program. You know what I'm saying? It's the same thing. So if your social media is not working, either quit or you figure out how to pivot and recalibrate and try something new.
Yeah. Like you said, it's not
But
just
it's
getting it, you have to
possible.
convert. Yeah.
It's possible though for natural athletes to get great sponsorships. I'm just a 47-year-old dude living in Oklahoma, working hard. I'm not the most cut. I don't have the best natural V shape. None of that. It's about working hard and connecting with people, and just making yourself uncomfortable. We can make ourselves uncomfortable in the gym. It's the same with social media. Like I'm older guy, so when new platforms come out, it kind of freaks me out. Of learning how to do reels, all that stuff was new for me. But it's like you have to try something new and kind of get uncomfortable sometimes to find what works best for you. And any of these guys can do it. So I don't say that to brag, but I've been full-time with sponsorships for years now, where I stopped training clients. I'm an ISSA master trainer and I train clients in the gym. Stopped doing that years ago because of social media, and the sponsorships started paying my bills, and it freed up me to pursue other things, to compete full-time, to just do different projects that I like to do. And so when I compete nowadays, my goal is to have enough sponsorship money to pay all my expenses and then some before I ever leave the house. And it's possible for all the competitors to do that even without a national sponsor, because you start with who you know. You might have family members and friends that really want to support you. There's local businesses. There's local successful business owners here that might want to support you. You don't know if you don't ask. So if you could get all your expenses paid for before you leave the house, how much more could you compete? How much more could you put into your training and clear your stress and do better? So it's that thought process of the hard work I did to raise that money to compete, and I knew I had all my expenses paid for. Because I knew as the shows went on, I didn't add shows unless I could have the finances to pull it off. And it reduced my stress. It lowered the cortisol. It helped me be more comfortable as I competed.
Yeah. It's interesting that you bring it up because I've actually recently started getting involved with combat sports. I personally sponsor a couple fighters as a rehab specialist. And that's something that's ingrained in that culture, right? When you watch like an MMA fight, they carry out their banner and all that with all their trainers. Everyone comes out and they're all just, sponsors on everything. And a lot of those for these local guys, It's people that just like who they are and they want to support this person chasing their dream. And I think you could probably find that within your own community as well, which is exactly what you're saying.
Start with who you know, start with what you're using,
Hmm.
and then you can start expanding from there. But yeah, absolutely. There's people out there that probably want to support you, especially if you're a good guy, if you're trying to give back to people somehow. Some people compete for them, and there's nothing wrong with this. Like, I do really a lot of what I do to help other people, to inspire people. That's the basis of my social media. My social media started is education, because I'm a trainer, to educate people, to help people. It's for me, it's not, I never wanted to be an influencer. I wanted to help people. And as that base grew, sponsors came. And I
Hmm.
still haven't, I wouldn't call myself an influencer. I do sponsorship posts, but I do it because of the partnership, not because I want to be an influencer. Still, everything I do is educational based, so it's a little bit different, I guess, for some of the competitors, and there's nothing wrong with this at all, are under the radar. They just want to go in and kick ass, take names, and go back and be under the radar, and that's fine. That's fine. But for the few individuals that are out there and have a platform and want to, it's not that they have to educate or do what I do, but whatever their voice is, whatever their passion is, if they have a way to give to people in whatever unique way they have, they're in a position to get people to support them,
Hmm.
to
No, I
get
love
behind
that.
them.
I love it. Absolutely. So you brought up the book a couple times. I want to make sure people know where they can find this book. I personally am interested in reading it. Where can the viewers, the subscribers, all that find this book that you have written on sponsorship?
So again, I wrote that book just because so many friends were asking me every week, how did you get those sponsorships? I was like, man, I'm typing this up so much, my fingers are hurting. So I basically wrote out everything I did, how I keep my sponsorships. I have like a sample letter. Here's how I reach out to them. I have interviews with big companies that I'm with about what they're looking for in people. So it's pretty much everything. Is comprehensive, but it's not big. It's very to the point, comprehensive. It's called How to Get Sponsorships and Keep Them. And it's on my website, wittigworks.com.
There you go. Nice and simple,
Very
easy to
inexpensive.
find.
It's very inexpensive. I'm not trying to make a lot of money off it. But it's on there. And, if you run into me on the street and it comes up, I probably will email to you for free, kind of thing. But you can get it on wittigworks.com.
There you go. There you go. All right. So I love that conversation. I think that in itself is going to be huge for people, but we've got so many other topics that we could talk about too, right? So let's reel it back to the last competitive season, right? Because that's where this all kind of spawned from.
Mhm.
What made last season so much different that you were able to be successful with that many shows? Because you said it yourself, you were dragging after those prior seasons with 4 to 5 shows. What allowed
Yeah.
you to make this one so much different?
One thing is I did do it full time. Okay. So I didn't do any acting work last year, just a couple. I pretty much just told my agent I'm going to take the year off. I just did a few modeling things that weren't stressful. I didn't do any extended time on movie sets or any of that. Because that stuff's hard work. It's not
Mhm.
all fun and games. It's like you get up there at 5 a.m., you're there 12 hours plus. It's crazy hard work. So I turned everything down, so I could concentrate fully. Because again, I'm in an extended off season right now, and I had planned to do that. So I really wanted to give my absolute 100%
Mhm.
before I took this off season. And doing acting work didn't fit in that game, so I turned it off and concentrated full time. When I decided to do it, a lot of shows, I wasn't. You know what? I guess I felt pretty confident I could pull it off. And this sounds really cheesy, but I'll just have to tell you that I knew I could do it, and I did do it because it was God powered.
Mhm.
That's just it. It's something I prayed about, and the decision to do a lot of shows I felt came from God. It was inspired. I am a Christian. I'm a believer. Fine if other people aren't. I'm not one to push what I believe, but I've been a believer my whole life, and a lot of what I do in life is I pray about it, and I feel really called to do something.
Mhm.
This is before this. I was in a band that did really well. I felt called to do that. I'm still in that band. I write, and I've done really well at that. I've jumped into acting, doing good at that. So it's not that I'm good at everything I do. I feel called to do things. And then when I feel called to do things, I do give it my 100%. I'm a very focused individual. my close friends would say that about me, that I'm very, very focused at what I do. Probably so much that it's almost maybe a fault potentially. You know, if I have my faults, that's one of them. I can get too focused. So when I felt called to do this, and it's something I had to talk to my wife about. She wasn't like, "Oh, great, you're going to do 17 shows." I'm going to tell you, it was a struggle. It was something that she was very happy about, you know, and it would cause some conflict and things we worked through all last year. She is very supportive. I couldn't have done what I did without her support, but it wasn't all peaches and roses. It was work on the relationship too, to pull off what I did last year. But I had explained to her over and over again, I really feel called to do this. There's a reason for this. Now, my personal reason, yeah, I wanted to be my best. I had that for myself before I took my off season. But the reason to do a lot of shows was called is, Michael, you're gonna do these shows, and when you go out and do these shows, I want you to have a positive impact on as many people as possible. So when I go to these shows, if you saw me at one of these 17 shows, I wasn't, you know, with my hoodie on, hiding in the corner. I was really out talking to people and building relationships. People I knew online, I got to meet in person. That's why I did 5 organizations. There's cats that I knew online that I never got to compete with. Eric Shelton, Dexter Newsome, you know, Denario Moore, or Denario Smith, what's his name? Desario from NGA, all these guys that I've knew, but you know, Showtime Keith, never met him in person. I wanted to go out and meet these people and you know, and build relationships with people, you know. So I was just going out and making myself available, talking to people, and just doing what I could. In a lot of cases, going somewhere private and praying with people because maybe they were going through issues that I didn't know about. And it just, when you make yourself available for God and you say, okay, use me, do things happen. I'll be talking to some cat I didn't mean, that never met before, and he's telling me about his troubles he's having with his marriage. And I'm like, you know what? I've had troubles with my marriage, man. Let me tell you about my story. And we were able to go off and pray. So that was the main reason I decided to do that many shows, is I felt called to go out and be there for people, you know, and I felt good about that. That was my purpose, and I did it. And because of that calling too, it enabled me to work hard and somehow raise an additional 25 grand to pull that off, which is a miracle. I didn't know I was gonna be able to do that. That's crazy. And honestly, looking back, the whole thing was crazy. So then physically, how did I pull that off? Because yes, I've done 4 shows before and did really well, won the shows, but was mentally and physically exhausted. Like where I was hard to get out of a chair. You guys been there.
Oh yeah.
It's like you're so weak that you can barely move, and your testosterone is 0. You know, it's like, dude, I've done seasons where my junk didn't work because I was such in a calorie deficit. My testosterone was so low. It's like my testosterone was crashed. You know, my junk didn't work. I felt like crap. How did I pull off this season, man? I don't know. Again, I felt called by God, and he must have gave me the strength. I had Eric Murphy watching my macros. Now, I'm a trainer. He didn't need to do everything for me. I did all my own workouts, and he helped me with the macros and oversaw the overall, hey, where's your cardio at? Let's do this. We worked together, but he really guided me with the macros, which helped a lot. He kept me fueled.
When did, just to get a couple like time stamps on this a little bit so people have an idea, when was the first show, if you can remember, and then when was the last in dates? Okay.
April 29th, I think, and it was a USBF show in Michigan, I think, was the first show. USBF show was the first show. I did Open Men's Physique. I won that. I won that show. The last show was November 12th-ish at the Natural Olympia in Las Vegas, PNBA. And I did
like seven-ish months of competing, pretty much.
7 months straight, shows every single month, multiple shows. 2 weekends in the fall were 3 shows back-to-back weekends. Show, 1 weekend off, show, weekend off. I mean, it was full on. So the volume increased as the year went on. I will say, I was thinking about this because I knew this would come up. Looking back, I was fuller in the first few months. Okay, so I was cut and I won some shows, but I wasn't as diced as I got later on. So it's like we saved a little bit. I think if I would have been as cut as I was the last in like October, November, if I would have tried to do that in April and May, I probably would have burned out. You know, so we was eating more. I was a little bit fuller, but competitive earlier on. And then as it was getting closer and closer, it was more, let's go all in. Now I'm all in. I have no reason to save anything. I can be dead. I can crash. I can suffer now. We got that mentality near the end where we got, you know, do or die all in. Doesn't matter. I can go to the hospital now, you know, kind of attitude at the end.
Yeah. And you almost have to, right? I mean, that's a very, very long season. And it's, man, if you've been there, you know what it feels like. I haven't done a back-to-back peak yet, planning on it this upcoming season, but I can just imagine how rough that is, because that day after a hangover almost just seems like it just beats you to a pulp, and then to do that 3 times
twice. Now, some of the key of that was refeeds, of course. After each of those shows, it wouldn't matter if I had a show the next week, like the next weekend, I would still have a big burger or a pizza or something to put me back to life. You know, and then some of those weekends, you know, I was doing 3 to 5 classes. I pulled it off. My cardio, my conditioning was enough. My stage conditioning, you know, I was able to pull that off through a lot of practice. So I was like, it was full time. So I was posing practicing twice a day, every day for 7 months, because I knew some of these shows where I was going to compete 5 times in one day, I knew that my stage conditioning had to be, you know, doing cardio and flexing on stage for 5 classes is a whole different thing. You know, so I did that through intense posing. And I got that mindset from a coach, what's his name? I'm going blank right now. Is it Andre? God dang, he's going to be so mad if he sees this. I'm blank right now. But basically, we pose right here on my porch where I'm right now. And he's like, Mike, you got to pose hard, man. This little posing's not going to do it. He goes, you need to pose hard and flex hard. I want to see you sweating and dying. You should be physically exhausted when you're done. You know, he was pretty crazy about it. He was a natural Olympia bodybuilding winner. Adrian, that's his name, from California, originally from Romania. He's just got a crazy mindset. And he's like, you got to pose hard. And he would work me through and I'd be done. But he got me posing that hard twice a day, every day, you know, on my own. So when I got on stage, I had the conditioning to be able to pull that off physically. As the year went on, I knew I wasn't going to make it if I didn't start putting more recovery protocol in place. You know, so I would say I really beefed up recovery protocols the last couple months. Absolutely. They're going into the Mr. America, and that was part of 3 back-to-back shows. I was getting cryotherapy, you know, compression therapy almost daily. I'd come home from a show, part of my schedule every day, go to cryotherapy, take a nap. You know, like I was scheduling naps, scheduling cryotherapy and compression therapy almost 5 days a week there. And that's expensive, but again, sponsorships. I went to a cryotherapy place, explained what I was doing, showed them my platforms, and landed a sponsor. So your sponsorship deals don't always have to be for money. You know, I landed a cryotherapy sponsorship, and so I didn't have to pay for it. And I got X amount of sessions, so I was able to go every day, and I promoted their company. You know, so you can be creative with it. Hey, you want a killer pizza feast after a show? Figure out where you want to go, call that place up. They might sponsor you. I had that happen a couple times. You know, so you can help your family by maybe not getting money, but maybe by saving yourself money. You know, so that extra protocols helped a lot. So to help me pull it off, cryotherapy, compression therapy, game changer. Game changer. It'll help you look more cut. That compression therapy, like say on your legs, dude, it will make you that much more sharper if you do it right, if you use it strategically. You know, taking walks and getting sunshine, that was part of my protocol. Getting that sunshine, that vitamin D, keeping my immune system strong so I didn't get sick. You know, so I was that meticulous, where a day for me was working out in the morning, taking a nap, cryotherapy, going for my walk, doing my cardio. You know, it was scheduled out every day like that, full time every day for pretty much 7 months. That's how I pulled that off.
Yeah. And that's, listeners, some might find themselves in a situation where they can do that, others might not. They might not be able to take it to that extreme, but hopefully they can take from that where if you want to do this, I mean, there are certainly risks and side effects to prolonged competition. You have to try and at least mitigate them with whatever means you can. You took it to
Yeah.
the nth degree because you had the availability to do so.
I worked hard to give myself the availability to do so. I made it happen. I wasn't just sitting here on money, worked
Mhm.
really hard to pull it off. I worked really hard every day to keep that schedule. Again, it was just about consistency and having that mindset of doing whatever's necessary,
Mhm.
of making it happen. And those recovery protocols were key. Now, the cool thing was I did those shows. You know what? I felt fine. I could have
Mhm.
did more. I could have did more shows. I never crashed. I was tired some days. After some of those shows where I competed 3 to 5 times, I was really, really sore for about 3 days afterwards.
Right.
Like my back and my calves, like just from being on stage so much, I was aching physically. But as far as my energy levels and my mindset, I was good to go, man. I was good to go at the last show. I was only ready to be done because I really just wanted to eat. You know what I'm
Mhm.
saying? I want some donuts and pizza and just to eat. But physically, I could have done more shows after the Olympia last year. I could have done it physically. I could have pulled off more.
Mhm.
So I would say for me, it was having a vision and a passion of why I was doing it. Have your why. Have a great team. Didn't pull it off myself. I had Eric Murphy. I had supporting coach or opposing coaches and just supportive friends. And then excuse me, and then taking recovery protocols to the extreme of naps, cryotherapy, walks, supplementation.
Mhm.
Of course, it's third-party tested, natural, clean stuff I've been taking for 8 years. Now, does that help a lot? No, it helps like 3%. But when you're a pro like most of us and you're working that hard, dude, 3%, we're gonna want that 3%. That's important. So
Mhm.
it's like basically everything you can do, you do this, you're doing 4 or 5 shows. That's a lot. I'll never do 17 again. 4 or 5 is a lot. I know that. You want to do your best at those 4 and 5. Some of what I learned doing my 17 shows will apply to you and help you. Posing
Absolutely.
twice a day, that will make a game changer. Having a coach you work with, that's a game changer. You're going to do a new class like I did classic physique and sports model, seek out the best. Who's the best? I called Showtime Keith. Hey, bro, I suck at posing. I need help. You know, go up, go to these guys. Be humble. None of us are the best. We can all learn. So I went humble to the best and said, "Teach me." I'm an open book, and then put that work in.
I love it.
Love
I
that.
love it.
Love it. So
Yeah.
I have a quick question, probably a kind of a closing question. You talked about being called to things. What are you feeling called to in 2024 now coming out of your long 2023 season? I know you had the intent of taking a long off season. So what are you feeling called for 24?
So I am 47 right now. I'm taking off till I'm 50. So I'm taking a full 3 years off to build because I did compete too much, not enough to visibly look different. So for me to at my age to come in better and visibly look different on stage, I need to put on some muscle. So I'm gonna take 3 years off. Progress is already good for my age. I'm getting in bodies every month, tracking my workouts, loosely tracking macros, but I'm just in a surplus, so I'm not being super meticulous. But I'm taking the off season every day seriously, like I did last year, to get the growth that I want. So that's one of my goals, is just put on as much mass as I can in 3 years, so I can come back at 50, and I'm going to be doing mainly classic. I may still dabble with the sports model, but probably not men's physique anymore because I've been working on my legs. I got a classic pro card now, and I did compete at pro classic last year. Um, and I want to step on stage at 50 plus classic. I'll probably do some 40 plus, and I'll probably do some open as well.
Mhm.
But it's build muscle so I can mainly go classic. Um, Outside of bodybuilding, I'm starting to do more acting work again. I've done a few projects this year, modeling and acting. Not full time. I'm not trying to be a full time actor. It's fun and it's an easy way to help my family.
Mhm.
I'm in that circle so I can do it. So I'm not trying to be a full-time famous actor, at all, but I'm going to take the work because I can get to help my family. And then I felt called to, I've been asked for a couple years to promote a bodybuilding show, a natural bodybuilding show. People have asked me for several years, but last year I was so focused, I said, it's not the time. So now that I'm taking an extended year off, it's the time. I had meetings last year and I'm promoting my first show with the INBA, PNBA. I like a lot of the organizations. I'm friends with a lot of the promoters, a lot of the organizations. Of the 17 shows I did last year, 10 of them were PNBA. I really like the people. I like the organization. They're just really friendly. It's a really family-oriented atmosphere when I go to their shows. And I'm not putting down any of the other organizations. I love them too. It's just they came to me. I had meetings with them and I felt really good about what we're doing. So I'm promoting their first show in Oklahoma, and it's a pro-am, August 10th. It's called the Tournament of Titans. So and that name came to me. I was always a fan of Gladiator and 300. So the Tulsa Tournament of Titans just kind of rolls off the tongue, and I like that. I brought in my friend Eric Murphy to help me promote it. So he's co-promoting it with me. There's nobody better out there that I would want to bring on to do this is my friend Eric Murphy. So we're Oklahoma bred and doing this for the athletes. Between both of us, we have 50 plus pro titles. We both came up in Oklahoma. So we're doing it for Oklahoma. We're doing it for all our friends across multiple organizations and our peers across the nation and the world. We have friends in all the organizations between both of us, and we're inviting all of them. So this pro-am, the Tournament of Titans, all pros are welcome across all organizations. You do need to get a 2024 PNBA, INBA membership though, but all pro cards are accepted. So we have friends from all organizations rolling in from all over. We're real excited, and we're using our knowledge of competing at so many shows. We know what the athletes want.
Mhm.
We know what we want when we show up at a show. So we're trying to incorporate all the things that we know we would want into this show, and we're just doing our best to make that happen.
I love it. Yeah. So August 10th, Tulsa, place to be. It sounds
Yep,
like.
yep. Tulsa tournamentoftitans.com. It is an INBA, PNBA show, so it's a pro qualifier. So amateurs come, get your pro card. It's a Natural Olympia qualifier for the pros, which I love the Natural Olympia. I had a great time. I think I've gone 3 times. It's just a whole nother experience. I had a blast at the Mr. America. The Natural Olympia is just it's a different level. It's just a different thing. It's an animal,
Mhm.
and I have a great time every time I go. So it's a qualifier. So if you're out there, no matter what organization you're from, if you haven't been to the Natural Olympia, you need to go check it out. It's just a different experience.
There we go.
Love it.
This last year when I went, I'm here hanging out with not just an individual from Romania, a team from Romania, like a group of people from Romania that came from Romania to compete. And I'm hanging out with them, taking a picture of them. Then I'm over here talking to this massive group from France. Then I'm over here talking to this huge group from Germany, Hungary, and China. And it's just unreal. It's a world championship, but you're not just getting a couple random people from other countries. There's whole teams, like 5, 10, 20 people coming from these other countries there. And it's pretty unreal, from New Zealand, Australia, countries I've never even heard of up there. It's pretty crazy. That makes it a unique experience, unlike anything I've done before. Of the 17 shows that I've done before, that's what makes that is it the best show in the world? There's a lot of great shows out there. The Mr. America was pretty great. It's pretty awesome. You guys were there. I was there.
Mhm.
It's just the Natural Olympia is really unique because of the large groups of people coming from all over the world. It's just a different animal. So if you haven't done it, I encourage you to put that on your bucket list. And our Tournament of Titans is a qualifier for pros. We're open to all pros. You come, you're automatically, you don't have to win, you're automatically qualified to go to the Natural Olympia as a pro then.
Okay, there we go.
Awesome.
All right. Well, I think that's probably just about wrapping it up just on the time alone. I know we could probably talk all night about all sorts of different topics. I know personally I'll be buying the book just to read through it. And we appreciate your time, Michael. So are there any closing thoughts that you have? And let's definitely get the socials just so people can find you if they don't already follow you.
Yes, sir. So wittigworks.com is home base. That's WITTIG, then works. All my social media is Wittig Works, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, all that stuff. My final words would be, I get asked a lot from my friends or during interviews. You guys didn't ask it, but a lot of people do. They're like, what do you see natural bodybuilding going?
Mhm.
Where do you see the future of natural bodybuilding, Michael? And so as my closing thoughts, I want to answer that question. In the future of it really depends on us, the natural athletes.
Mhm.
It's not up to the promoters. They're going to have these or the organizations. There's a handful of great organizations out there. There's great promoters out there putting on awesome shows, and it's not up to them to carry natural bodybuilding. It's up to us, what we do. We're the people that make it happen. We're the ones competing. And are we showing up? Are we talking about it? How are we representing the sport as individuals? So the future of it really depends on us, on what we do to go out and spread the word, and how we represent not just ourselves, but the whole natural bodybuilding community. If each of us as individuals strive to do great things, and I'm not talking about winning titles, doing great things could be just making a great impact on people, doing positive things, influencing people, inspiring other competitors. If we can go out as individuals and do great things as a group, we're going to help natural bodybuilding do great things.
Mhm. Absolutely
Love
agree.
that.
Yeah. It can't close it any better than that. So Michael, again, we thank you for your time on this Sunday afternoon, evening. I'm not even sure exactly what time it is there for you, sometime before ours.
Just
But
about 3 o'clock.
there we go. Perfect time. So if you guys like this episode, make sure to give Michael a follow, check out his literature, check out the page, check out Tournament of Titans in Tulsa, and we will see you guys in the next one.